Good evening everyone. Yung report ko ngayon, techniques used to preserve audit trail in computer-based accounting system. Una, yung transaction logs. Every transaction successfully processed by the system should be recorded on a transaction log, which serves as a journal. There are two reasons for creating a transaction log. Una, in transaction log is a permanent record of transaction. The validated transaction file produced at the data input phase is usually a temporary file. Once na-process na yung mga record dito, delete na o ma-erase para magkaroon pa ng room for next batch of transaction. Second, not all of the records in the validated transaction file may be successfully processed. Kasi some of this record may fail test in the subsequent processing stages. And a transaction log should contain only successful transaction. Unsuccessful transaction should be placed in an error file. The transaction log and error files combined should account for all the transaction in the batch. The validated transaction file may then be scratched with no loss of data. Yan. The system should produce a hard copy transaction listing of all successful transactions. This listing should go to appropriate users to facilitate reconciliation with input. Next is yung log of automatic transactions. Some transactions are triggered internally by the system. An example of this is when inventory drops below a preset reorder point, the system automatically process a purchase order. Listing of automatic transactions. To maintain control over automatic transaction processed by the system, the responsible end user should receive a detailed listing of all internally generated transactions. Yun nga, para malaman natin, for example, yung system, generate ng transaction or gawa ng purchase order. Meron pa namang inventory para alam natin, tas magkaroon tayo ng control dun sa system para kunwari nakita natin puro gumagawa ng transaction yung system para ma-report agad natin at maayos. Yun lang yan. Unique transaction identifiers. Each transaction processed by the system must be uniquely identified with a transaction number. This is only practical means of tracing a particular transaction through a database of thousands or even millions of records. Yun lang. Yun lang yung account number. Error listing. A listing of all error records should go to the appropriate users support error correction and the submission. Yan. Output controls. Output controls ensure that system output is not lost, misdirected, or corrupted, and that privacy is not violated. Exposure of this sort can cause serious disruption to operation and may result to financial losses to a firm. Yan nga, diba tapos na tayo sa input sa processing control. Pag nagkamali pa rin doon, yung sa input control natin, diba pag nagkamali tayo doon ng transaction, tayo processing control. So, pag nagkamali na naman yung processing control sa output control, na kaya pag nagkaroon to ng mali na naman, magkakaroon na talaga ng financial losses to a firm. Yun, yung example dito, if the checks produced by a firm cash disbursement system are lost, misdirected, or destroyed, trade accounts and other bills may go unpaid. This could damage the firm's credit rating and result in lost discounts, interest, or penalty charges. Yun nga, next na yung control batch system output. Kaya magfo-focus tayo dito sa sa batch system, hindi sa real time kasi nga mas susceptible to exposure yung batch system. Yan. Batch system usually produce output in the form of hard copy which typically requires the involvement of intermediaries in its production and distribution. Yan, yung unang control is yung output spooling. In large-scale data processing operations, output devices such as line printer can become backlogged with many programs, simultaneously demanding these limited resources. Ano yan? For example, isa lang yung printer nung, di ba kailangan mag-produce ng hard copy ng mga transaction? For example, isa lang yung printer tapos, di ba batch system tayo, hindi real time. Bale yung batch, mga 50 items yung transaction nun. Bale, ginagawa dito sa output spooling, gumagawa ng parang another storage para sa printer para yung printer, ma-assess niya na maayos yung mga transaction na ipiprint niya para mas hindi mag-backlog o magkaroon ng delay o mag-cause ng bottleneck. Next is yung the creation of an output file as an intermediate step in the printing process presents an added exposure. A computer criminal may use this opportunity to perform any of the following unauthorized acts. Yeah. Access the output file and change critical data values such as dollar amount of checks on checks. Yan, yung output file dito, di ba? Ano siya? Yung gumawa tayo ng another storage para maayos yung pagpiprint para hindi magkaroon ng backlog o bottleneck. Yun yung output file. Yan. The printer program will then print the corrupted output as if it were produced by the output run. Using this technique, a criminal may effectively circumvent the processing control designed into the application. Next is yung kaya access the file and change the number of copies of output to be printed. The extra copies may then be removed without notice during the printing stage. And make a copy of the output file to produce illegal output reports. Destroy the output file before output printing takes place. Yan yung mga computer criminal na kanyang yan yung mga acts na kaya gawin ng computer criminal. And the auditor should be aware of these potential exposures and ensure that proper access and backup procedures are in place to protect output files. Next is yung print programs. Ano pa rin siya, control pa rin siya. When the printer becomes available, the print run program produces hard copy output from the output file. Print programs are often complex systems that require operation intervention. Yan. Ito yung 4 common types of operator action. Una, posing the print program to load the correct type of outputs documents. Yan, for example, check stocks, invoices, or other special forms. Next is entering parameters needed by the print run, such as number of copies to be printed. Next, restarting the print run at a prescribed checkpoint after a printer malfunction. Next, removing printed output from the printed for a review and distribution. Print program controls are designed to deal with 2 types of exposures presented by this environment. Yung una is yung production of unauthorized copies of output and employee browsing sensitive data. Yan, yun, di ba yung sa number 1, production of unauthorized copies of output. Di ba kanina sinabi ko, yung operator, kaya niyang siya yung nag-e-enter nung number of copies to be printed. Bale, pwede siyang magkaroon ng another unauthorized copy of output. Bale, yung para makontrol to, mag-ano tayo, employee output document controls. Similar siya sa source document control. Yung pagkakaintindi ko dito, yung bawat output o yung na-print, meron siyang parang account number or actual number, basta yun, meron siyang account number. Tapos, dapat sunod-sunod yun kasi nga 'di ba by batch. Bale, pag merong kunwari 11, 12, 13 tas yung 12 nawawala, bale parang dun na natin malalaman na merong nagkaroon ng o merong another copy na print. Tapos 'pag nangyari yun supervision may be the most effective control technique. Yun. Next is yung employee browsing of sensitive data. 'Di ba nga yung operator, siya yung nagre-remove ng printed output nung file. Bale, para makontrol yun, naglalagay tayo ng special multipart paper can be used with the top copy colored block to prevent the print from being read. O kaya, meron pang isang alternative control, yung magkakaroon tayo ng another printer na special that can be closely supervised. Yun lang. Next na si Erica Agustin.